All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
And today's guest is Jonas Deichmann. Jonas is the German extreme athlete and the holder of 7 world records. He's a man that knows no limits and sees challenges as, don't see things as it can't be done, instead have the mindset that you can be the first person to do it. He's the first to have completed a triathlon around the world. He's the fastest to cycle across continents and so much more. And in this interview, we discuss how you can build adventure into your own life, how to take a goal that seems like a massive challenge and break it into manageable challenges and find the key skills and experience you need to achieve them, how to build a mindset of wonder and joy through hardship and challenges, and so much more. And now, let's get to the interview. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's an honour to feature somebody like you who's done such amazing things in their life. But for people who maybe don't recognise the name, how do you define who you are? Because you've achieved so much. But what if you had to give a cliche introduction, what would you say to people?
Well, I see myself as an adventurer and extreme athlete, but more the adventurer. So the past few years I have set first cycling world records, always crossing continents as fast as I could. And then I did the first triathlon around the world. So while this is 120 times Ironman is a big physical challenge, my main focus is on the adventure part. It's on experiences going into the unknown and explore.
That's a great answer. You were quite an adventurous child when you were younger. You know, was that sort of installed from your parents, or you know, how do you get to create such an idea for a challenge like this? You know, when most people say they're going to do a challenge, it's a Tough Mud or an Ironman. Where did the mindset come from for you to think, I'm going to go around the world and do 120, like triathlons? Was there something that you can look to in your youth that you think caused this?
Definitely. From a young child, I was always outdoors and doing sports with my family. I never was in a hotel. We always went camping into the mountains, to the ocean. And my granddad was a snake hunter in Africa.
Awesome.
So that was nice as a child to see this. And I was there the first time when I was 6 years old. So this kind of also defines yourself, that you see someone in your family that has a very adventurous lifestyle. And then for me, it basically started during university that I first cycled around the world, and then I wanted more.
I was very intrigued in that sort of mindset of you said things like, okay, when somebody says to you, that no one's done that before, it can't be done. You said, great, I can be the first one then. How do you think we get that sense of wonder and motivation to do that in our own lives? Is there a way we can kind of have the Jonas mindset rather than the closed mindset that a lot of people have?
Yes, I mean, society and family and kind of how we grow up, there is a lot of pressure for taking the safe way. At least that's the case in Germany. And if you follow the safe path and the normal way, life is very comfortable, but not extraordinary. And you sometimes have to take this first step to follow your dreams. And I always ask myself, well, if nobody has done that before, then, well, no one has failed trying, right? So that doesn't mean it's not possible. It just means it's a bit out of the normal, and someone has to be the first one. And this is, yeah, it's a complete mindset and attitude that you first of all you embrace also the risk of that it may not work, but I always believe it will work. So there is this unconditional positive attitude that whatever I try, there may be a lot of challenges, but I always believe I will be successful. And that comes, first of all, of course, with a lot of experience. But in the end, the hardest thing is to do this first step and try. And if you really want it, there will be a solution. We just have to take this first step and really embrace the challenge.
No, it's great because I find so many young people, especially, are just like, no, I couldn't do something like that. Like they're so close to it that they don't think that it's possible for them. And that's why I'm so keen to have you on, because you're somebody that just looks at life and says, what if? Could I do this? How could I do this? And I think it's so inspiring to see the amazing things you've done. Do you think all men listening need to find a project, something that challenges them? Maybe not go around the world doing triathlons, but do you think it's something that we need more of a challenge in our lives to kind of, get back to nature, remember who we are as people?
Yes, that's one of my main messages. I don't think many people want to do a triathlon around the world, and that's totally fine. But with my projects, I want to inspire people to follow their dreams, whatever the dream is, and have the courage to do this first step. We are very comfortable in our ordinary life, but it's really worth it to follow your dreams and try it, and having a challenge. And if you find something where you are passionate about, that's really like you burn with all your heart for that, and you follow it, and give everything you have, then there will be solutions. You just have to try.
Yeah, because I mean, that's something that you said, like that you weren't a great swimmer when you first started, so you went and found people to, sort of help you. You worked with institutes to, get used to like the temperatures you'd be facing. So there's always a way of finding your way around it. But like, the task seems insurmountable when you think about it as a whole. You had a great way of kind of breaking it down, and you were going to do this self-sustained. How do you start breaking it down and looking at it in terms of, okay, it's only a kilometer after a kilometer, because you have that mindset rather than going, I have to do 48,000 this, I have to do 38,000 here. How do you start planning that? How do you even fathom such an idea?
There are, of course, a lot of techniques that make you successful in ultra endurance sports and challenging expeditions. For me, the longer and the harder it gets, the more it becomes a matter of mindset. And first of all, it is unconditional optimism. You have to believe you can do it. And then it's a lot about this goal setting, as you said, having those very, very small targets. So I make an example. When I, after the swimming and the cycling leg, I run across Mexico, 5,000 kilometers. And I haven't trained because I was cycling. So when I ran the first marathon, my legs, they were in an incredible pain. I could barely walk. And in that situation, if I think, okay, that's how you feel now, and you have another 119 marathons to go, then you are not going to make it. But in my mind, I wasn't doing a triathlon around the world. I wasn't running 120 marathons across Mexico. That's my big vision. But in the day-to-day business, I always looked on Google. Where's the next restaurant? Where's the next gas station? Oh, it's only a few kilometers away. And there that's not far. And there I get a chocolate bar, I get some tacos. And I like that. So I break down those very big goals into very small targets and reward myself with something I really like. Because we all need our personal chocolate bar.
I love it. I love your way of looking at things. It's like, all I need to do is get through this kilometer, then the next one, then the next one. I don't need to think about what's coming. I know that I'm prepared. I know that I'm planned. But, you have such a sort of limited space. You talked about how you didn't have a tent. You didn't have a stove. You kind of had to plan to purchase as you went. What does the sort of limited space teach you about what essentials really were to you, and what we would classify as essentials in modern life? How did you plan your trip and look? Because you spent your bike to the location you're going to start cycling from, for example. You carried it in a like a trolley behind you when you were running. What did it teach you about essentials and sort of what's important in life?
Well, I always have this compromise between, on the one side, comfort, having a nice tent and having a second pair of clothes and everything, and on the other side, speed, being fast, less weight. And in my case, of course, comfort usually loses. So I'm very, very lightweight. Lightweight. I even cut my toothbrush into two parts to save weight.
Jeez.
And it always works out. There is not much I need with some food, a sleeping bag, a pair of clothes, and a credit card and a cell phone. I can basically survive wherever I am. I can survive with less, but that's what I need to do my adventures and also communicate them. And for an around the world trip, I can do that with less luggage than most people would take for a weekend vacation. And it is not only in extreme expeditions that less is more. I also have this in my general lifestyle. All my belongings, they are kind of digital. I can have them online wherever I am, and I have a backpack in my dad's place and a friend's place, and that's it. So I don't have a home. I don't have a car. I'm always kind of on the move and very flexible, and this makes me. It's very liberating. I feel free and I can adapt to all situations.
Because I was really impressed with that kind of, because like a lot of people couldn't go without their iPad, without their their latest gadgets. And I think COVID is kind of teaching a lot of people that we kind of focus on such silly things. We worry about like what our neighbors are thinking, and now we're realizing that, we're looking at celebrities in the wrong way. We should have been looking at the doctors and the nurses for being the heroes of society. We should have been looking at what's really important, like family, rather than like what license plate is on your car kind of thing. So how did you work with, like, I noticed with a lot of top performers, you go and meet people. You don't try to do it all yourself when you're doing challenge. You will go and find the people who have the skill sets to help you achieve a certain area. You worked with like institutes to get used to the temperatures you were going to face in Siberia, etc. You worked with a swimming coach, etc. How do you find these people, and how do you get into that point of saying, leave the ego behind, but I can go and find somebody that can teach me what I need to know? Because that was something you did, and I was really impressed by that.
Well, what I'm doing is very, very extreme. And if you go into Siberia in winter, you are better prepared and did your homework. But one thing that's also one of my main messages is, before I was always doing cycling expeditions, and a lot of people said, well, you have been cycling all your life. And that's true. But I wasn't a runner, and I ran 120 marathons in 117 days. And I swam 460 kilometers as someone who wasn't a swimmer, because the longer and the harder it gets, it is simply a matter of your mindset. You have to want it badly enough. And those skills are the key of all endurance sports, and they are transferable. So with that mindset, of course, I can learn swimming, and I can also learn other disciplines. And I know I'm not the best at the moment, but then I look for someone who has the knowledge I'm lacking. And by now, well, of course, I'm very well connected in the adventure scene and also in business life. And with my projects, I get access to the best of the best in the area. And it's a small world. And then you kind of exchange ideas, exchange advice, and that's how I know I can do it. But in the end, I know the best advice and the best plan in practice only works to a certain degree, because I'm very often going into the unknown, and that's what makes it so super exciting.
because it's such an inspiring way of looking at it. It's like I noticed that a lot of the top performers will get a coach for their recovery, for their health, for their mindset. They know that they don't know it all, so they'll go and find these people because there's like an amazing bit of footage where you're cycling in a blizzard and you're smiling all the way through it because you prepped for it and you're prepared for it. It doesn't look fun, but it looks it's an amazing bit which will be in the show notes. But how do you plan? Because you can improve your swimming. I mean, to think about what you did when you don't consider yourself a swimmer is amazing. How do you plan for like changing in terrain, for swimming in the night, for waves? Because you can improve your like breaststroke, your backstroke, whatever. But how do you plan for nature?
I'm as much outside in nature as possible and do challenging expeditions, and then that prepares me. And it doesn't even have to be this discipline, because it's a lot about adapting to new situations, to be out adventuring. That gives you the mindset. So in my training, I'm not focused on one discipline. So I'm just focused on doing a lot of sports, doing it outside, doing it in the wild, and that prepares me. Swimming is very, especially not in the lake, but especially in the sea. It's a very special discipline, because on land, whatever comes, I can push through. In the sea, if the current and the waves are against me, there is no way I can progress. So it's a very, very humbling discipline where you
Mhm.
where you where you notice there's no way. If nature doesn't want that you progress, you don't progress, and you have to accept this and adapt accordingly.
Because it's certainly something that people struggle with. It's like they don't prepare at all. They kind of go, "Yeah, I've done some running for a marathon," but it's a marathon is not just running, And it's I say that to people is why try, why not go to an expert, get a plan set up? And I was amazed at like, you were like, I didn't really know how to run with, carrying my equipment, so I attached some tires behind my back just to get used to the chafing, for example. I didn't know, like there's all these amazing kind of ways that you found to mimic so you could get used to the endurance, the challenges that you were going to face. But I mean, no one could think about COVID happening. How did you avoid becoming like a sort of, like everybody became a doom and gloom merchant, and they all thought, oh, it's the end of the world, what's the point? You thought, well, I can't run to a certain country because of the restrictions, I'll run round the outside border. How did you keep that? Well, I'll just have to change it on the fly. I just need to amend my plans as we go, because that's a great mindset to have.
Yes, I started my expedition between the first and the second COVID wave in Europe, and when I reached Turkey, all the borders east, they were closed. In the end, my original plan was to cycle across Iran, Pakistan, India, Southeast Asia, and then run across the US. And I ended up cycling across Siberia in winter and running across Mexico in summer, just because of that were the only countries where I could enter. And for me, the actually toughest situation of the entire project, that was when I reached Turkey and the borders were closed further east in Asia. And it took me 7 weeks to get a special permit to continue into Russia. And that was definitely the hardest thing, because it was in some way out of my control. The most important thing is I first had to accept the situation, to kind of let it go, and not create negative thoughts. It doesn't change anything to blame my bad luck and be sad about it. I have to look forward and believe I will find a solution. So I thought, what can I do to change it? What can I do to get a bit closer to my big target? And one thing that is super, super important, it is all about staying positive. And is that also in my environment during my expeditions, there's nobody in my team or in my environment that has negative thoughts. I don't allow people like this to get close to me in my environment during those expeditions. So everyone in my environment thinks, yes, we will always find a solution, because you need to surround yourself with people that are positive, that lift you higher. If there is someone that always says, oh, well, this is not going to work, maybe you should come back and wait and everything, it just drags you down.
I mean, do you think that's a problem that we have in society, that the news is so negative, social media is so negative, that so a lot of people don't believe they can do something before they start? Just the fear of the challenge is scary, but to actually do the first step is terrifying for a lot of people. What did you learn about that, about just going, no, I'm going to do it, but actually going through and doing it? How did you overcome that fear of the initial just stepping out away from like your home base?
There's actually a very good example I have to that. And when I was at university, I did an exchange semester in Singapore. And I didn't like Singapore. I arrived there and I expected a big adventure. That's Southeast Asia, and Singapore is a very, very modern city where everything is organized, and it's super expensive, and it's in a lot of ways more like London than the image I had of Southeast Asia. So I decided that's not the exchange semester I wanted to have. And the next day, I choose only courses I can. Yeah, I have to be there every second week on one day, and the rest I can study that on my own. So I moved to Tioman Island, a beautiful island on the beach, and I had for like a few bucks a day, I had a nice place on the beach and had the best time of my life. And I tried to get like my other students to come join. We study in paradise, and that will all work. And everyone said, this is impossible. You are going to fail. No one has ever done it before. And I asked them why. And no one had a proper answer, because there is no reason why that shouldn't work. And I ended up being the best exchange student. And I saved a lot of money, had the best time of my life, and it all worked perfectly out. Well, now after Corona, we all learned that you can study from a distance, you can work from a distance. It's not that difficult, but the first reaction of people was always, well, this is not normal. No one has done it before. You're going to fail. And I always ask, why? Give me a reason. Is this really like this? And in most cases, there is a solution.
Because I like that approach of, like, instead of looking at it as, oh, no, that's not possible, thinking you're almost free to create your own path. You don't need to then think, well, that's the way it's been done, that's the way it's got to stay. You're kind of like, well, if nobody's done it, I'm just going to find my way through it. I just need to, because then I'm not restricted. I've got the chance to do it. And I like that approach of, you were saying to people, it's almost like, well, watch me then. Don't get in my way while I'm doing it. How do you look at that? Like, was it liberating to think, I can create the path, I can create how this challenge is going to go, that because no one's done it before, I'm going to get out my own way and just do it?
Yes, it's very, very liberating, because when you create your own path and you go, you do ways that no one has ever done before, then you also define the rules. So you're very, very free in everything. And of course, there will be setbacks. That's simply the case when you go your own way. But as you define the rules, you can also find the solutions. And most people always stay in their comfort zone. They take the way that's easy, the way that everyone does, and follow that one. But personally, I highly recommend think about it. Think about everything in life. Do I really want this? What can I change? What makes me really happy? And the first step is always the hardest one.
It's just an amazing way that you look at this, and I wish there was more people like you, and that's why I'm so keen to have you on, because we think we need better examples of this, where people need to realize that their only limit is themselves. How do you advise people to then get out their own way, to stop letting them be the thing that holds them back? Did you have a mantra when you were initially developing this kind of sense of wonderment and ability to do it, or has this just been part of you in your psychology, do you think?
Well, in the end, everything in life is about trade-offs. And if you take a risk, there is a chance, of course, you are going to fail. But personally, if I follow my dream and it doesn't work out the first time, well, then I know one way how it doesn't work. And I will still be proud that they have tried, I have given my best, I have tried to follow my dreams. And I will simply find another solution to do it. A real failure for me in life, that would be to have a big dream and never try to follow it. That would be a failure. And I always ask myself, what is the worst thing that can happen? And in the end, it's actually not that bad. It would be much worse to never try.
Anyway, that's a great way of looking at it. It's worse to regret than it is to try something and fail. At least failing, you're learning. You get something from the experience. Regret is the worst thing in the world for me, and I think that's part of the reason I started the podcast. Was I needed something else. I needed to speak to people like you who were going to inspire me, and I knew other people were needing that as well. Something I do notice with top tier competitors, they utilize I'm going to control the controllables and ignore the rest. And you utilize this beautifully in your challenges. How did you manage that when you're going around the world with the weather constantly changing, permits, red tape issues and things like that? How do you learn to let go of the things you can't control? Because you just go, oh, well, I can't do that. Let's rearrange here. Oh, I can't go here. Oh, I've just gone through my running shoes. I'll have to just get another pair. Or how do you adapt and roll with the punches?
There's a very, very important rule for everything I do in life, especially my expeditions, and that is concentrate on the things you can influence. And at the moment, for example, there's so much negative things in the world with news, with wars and everything, and I cannot influence it. But there are things I can do. So in the end, I can do my very best with the things that are under my control, and simply believe in the end I will find a solution. If I just think about everything that can go wrong and that I cannot control, it just creates negative energy. And an example, border closures, they will be there. And of course it happens, especially during the pandemic, but I cannot change it. So instead of thinking all the time, oh, in 4 months I will be there, and I don't know if this is a good idea, if the border is closed, I simply believe, well, I concentrate now on my next few steps. Where do I find enough food? Where do I find enough water? Can I do my 12K of swimming today? And when I get there, there will be a solution. And with punctures, I mean, yes, I do have my spare tire with me, my spare tubes, and there's always a solution.
Because I'm just smiling every time you answer, because it's like you're the kind of person I could listen to all day, because you're not just normal. You want to go and explore life and work and find the ways around things. And it's a mindset that sadly isn't in a lot of people. They kind of think, well, oh, there's a challenge there. Why am I going to bother? They don't even kind of say, well, I can't control that, but I can control this. Like you're saying, where's my next meal coming from? Where's my next kilometer challenge? Where's my next stop? Where's my next rest, etc.? Like they say that everybody's got a plan till they're punched in the face. If they're a boxer, everybody thinks they can get the girl or they can go win the fight, etc., until it actually happens. So when people are thinking, well, I'm a good swimmer, I can run a couple of miles and that. How do you keep going though when you're tired, you're wet, you're aching, you're waking up and you're frozen? You know, you always seem to be have a smile on your face and enjoying life and looking at it as a positive and motivational kind of a chance to drive on. What did that learn? What did you learn from that as a way of? You almost seem to kind of want to have a great time having a miserable time. You always seem to be wanting to push yourself on. And did you see it as more as a way to see around the world rather than a challenge as such?
Well, when I'm out in the Adriatic Sea and swimming, and it's miserable. I'm in a Siberian snowstorm on the bike, and it's absolutely horrible. I'm still exactly there where I want to be because I'm following my dream. I'm doing my trip around the world, and I wouldn't change it for anything in life. And a bit of misery, that's sometimes simply part of it. But after every low point, it kind of means now it's going to be better, huh? Because statistically, if you're very bad, the snowstorm at some point will stop and better times are coming.
I think it's a great metaphor for life, isn't it? It's like, you know, there's a storm just now, but better weather's coming. So, like, a lot of times when people are struggling, as I say that to people, you know, it's bad just now, but usually these are just blips on the radar that you just have to get through. You know, like it's when people say, like, oh, I can't go to college because it's 4 years, you think, well, 4 years is going to pass regardless. You may as well go and have and at the end of it, have the college course, you know, to show for rather than thinking, oh, I wish I'd done something in those 4 years. What did you learn during the time you spent? You know, because a lot of people would struggle with I don't want to call it loneliness, but the kind of away from technology, by yourself, you know, you were seeing wildlife and nature, and you said it, I think the quote was, it was an amazing way to have an absolute miserable time. But do you think that is something that people struggle with? What went through your mind during the long hours? Like, did you struggle with just your own company?
No, I never feel lonely out in the wilderness, even if I'm on my own. It's actually wonderful to be off from your phone, from any devices, and it's just me somewhere in the wilds, making a campfire and being out there. It's amazing, and you learn so much about yourself. For me, loneliness is rather something that's happening in the anonymity of big cities. But for me, never when I'm alone in the wild, it's just wonderful.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
I like that way of looking at it. It's like it's a sense of wonder. It's a sense I can go and find out about life, and your sort of natural curiosity comes through. Whereas a lot of people can be, we're surrounded by people, but we don't really know anybody. We don't really, modern society is horrible in that kind of way, that you can live next door to people all your life and never know your neighbours. I find that straight. Like, I came from a small fishing village where everybody knew each other and knew your family and stuff. And when you come down to big cities and people weren't even just saying morning to people, that was really strange to me. I couldn't get used to, because you became a wide known celebrity in Mexico. You met some amazing people. And I think that's that great mindset that you have is you went and just embraced it. And, you had these experiences because you allowed it. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I mean, your book translates to I am my only limit. Do you think that's another thing people need to remember? It's just get out your own way. It's to experience life rather than I don't know, kind of hide in the shadows because you're afraid of stepping out and doing something? I don't know.
Yes, and that's the title of my book, because I said before, not everyone wants to do a triathlon around the world, and that's totally fine. But what I want to say with this title is that um, we can all do so much more than we believe. And when I was running across Mexico, there were thousands of people that were joining, and a lot of them they've never run that joined for 20K, sometimes some for 30, and some for the marathon. But there were a lot of people that told me they have never run that much before in their life as that day, because now they saw a purpose in it. And it wasn't that hard, actually. In terms of running, I believe every person that doesn't have a disability can run a marathon, actually, without training. You just have to want it badly enough and believe in it. It's really not that hard. And this is the thing. You just have to be optimistic, believe in your skills, and do this very first step that may take yourself outside of your comfort zone. But if you do it, wonderful things will happen.
I just love your mindset. It's so refreshing, like, because people I have on the podcast, they're always so focused and they've got great ways of looking at it. And when I was looking at the amazing things you did and how you kind of, as you find out more about it, like you didn't have a tent, you didn't have like you just didn't seem to have a care because you were just going out and enjoying life and kind of almost like the nomadic lifestyle. You wanted to kind of just experience it. And I think that's the thing is like people, oh, it's exercise, I've got to run. Whereas you were doing it for a purpose. You're like you said, is we can do it if we have a purpose. We can, if there's like something behind it. And that goes back to like everybody needs a challenge, I think. And, what was like, how do you mark this? Like, how do you make it a record? Is there a way that you have to track it? Do you have to take like GPS devices? Do you have to, because you checked in like with social media and things like that as you ran so people could follow your progress. But how do you, I don't know, like control the distances and stuff, and getting in and out the water at the same point when you were sleeping at night and stuff like that? How did you show people that you had actually achieved this? Because I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with is like, how do you monitor it? Like, how does somebody make it an official record and somebody says, oh no, you've undercut 20 miles there or something like that? Is there kind of like criteria that you have to follow?
Yes, and the most important thing, of course, the base of it is the tracking of your distances. So I do have a satellite tracker and track all my runs or rides or swims. Also live on the internet, so you can always see on the map where I am, and people can, in Mexico they come and look for me and find me. And I also upload all the data on my profiles. Which is the main criteria, of course, and then pictures, videos, and so on. But the most important thing is that you always have the data live up there. But it's nice to set a record. It's nice to, it makes the challenge more. It gives it some kind of purpose, of course, and it makes it, it's nice to work towards this goal. But the main motivator for me is not the record in the end. That's a bonus. It is the way to get there, the journey along the way. It's those small moments like a sunset in the sea after a long day of swimming, or camping a night on Lake Baikal on the ice, or running through the Mexican desert. There are those special moments that I will remember for life. And this is in the end much, much more important than any kind of record.
I love it. I love the way that you talk about like the value of just seeing the sunset, of interacting with people. What did the challenge teach you about the world and how people relate to each other? Did it show you how like the world is actually a smaller place, that there's a lot of good people that, that we can kind of, well, people will go out their way to help each other? What did like seeing these other cultures and like, you were saying that you got stopped a few times with people running beside you and you thought, oh, this is looking scary. And it was actually like a band to play a few songs for you to keep you motivated, because people were inspired by it. What did those kind of experiences teach you about, I don't know, like society, about like the world community as a whole?
I have been in more than 100 countries so far, and I mean, especially at the moment, there are so many conflicts and wars in the world, especially like Russia and Ukraine at the moment. And I've been in Iran, in Sudan, which are countries with a horrible reputation. Mexico with the drug cartels, it's has a reputation to be very, very dangerous. And I've been in all of them, and I was treated well. Now I cycled across Ukraine and then across Russia, and both the Ukrainians and the Russians, they treated me incredibly nice and hospitable. I made only good experiences, and that really opens your eyes. That the conflicts and everything we have in the world, that's politics. Like it's a war from Putin and the Russian leaders, but not from the normal people. The normal people everywhere in the world, they want to have a peaceful and nice life, and have been treating me very nice wherever they were.
Because it's something I've seen, and like when we went on holiday, we went to Barcelona. I think it was the first time we'd ever been abroad, and we went into Catalan, and we deliberately picked a non-touristy area. We went into the heart of like Barcelona itself, and I can remember like people were trying to speak English, or they would find somebody they knew that could try like a book a taxi for you or explain something, and there were such beautiful people going out their way to help others, that I think we, if we believed the news, we'd think the world was at an end and, there was terrible people everywhere. But there are some amazing people. And I think that's what we need to sort of remember. But, to go and do something like this where you didn't even have a stove to cook, you were kind of buying food as you went. How do you plan to get the amount of food that you need? How do you plan not to be sick, to have a jippy belly? Did you work with a dietitian to kind of think, this is what I need to eat, this is how much water I need to take? How did you avoid having, because I think you did get sick on the way?
Yes, I do get food poisoning once or twice a year. It is simply part of the adventure lifestyle, and it happens. But I mean, it's not that bad. I just ignore it and continue cycling usually. So also food poisoning is in some way a mindset to deal with it. And I'm always unsupported, meaning there's no team around that helps me. Which means it's not like Western Europe, where you find good supermarkets with a lot of juice and energy bars and everything. In a lot of ways, I'm out in some countries where you have some small shops and a restaurant, and I have to find something. So I basically, in practice, I eat whatever I find and as much as I can, and that's it. I'm working on everything. I can eat chocolate and cookies and run my marathon. That's fine.
That sounds like my diet, to be honest. I just, whatever I see, I eat. And was that the kind of diet that you had? Was it just like cookies, chocolates? Were you buying like fish and stuff that you were there? Were you getting people giving you things? Because I think there was a story of somebody, you said that you were hungry on social media, and somebody like biked a pizza out to you. Did you find that was the most amazing part of it?
Yes, and there is no general rule what I was eating, because in every country I adapt what I find, and I eat that, which sometimes are restaurants, sometimes I'm invited by the locals. in some countries, I eat a lot of fruits, and in others, a lot of cookies. And especially in Mexico, the people, they are just all offered food. So there was one situation, and Mexico is just fantastic. I was running out of food in the middle of the desert, and I just made on Instagram. I made a story. I'm a bit hungry, and an hour later, the pizza service came. I didn't even ask for it, but yeah, it's amazing how people always helped.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? It's like they see somebody doing this amazing thing and it inspires them and they want to be part of it and it builds that community. And I think that's sometimes where we keep our goals to ourselves and then suddenly you're like 80, 90 and you realize you haven't got the time to do them anymore. So sometimes it's better to have the accountability almost to kind of say it out loud and inspire others and bring them in and get them motivated. But when you're doing this, you're kind of like stopping at night and coming out the water and sleeping on the bank and then going back in the water at the same point. How did you manage to get a chance to recover, deal with aches, cuts, bruises, things like that? Was there a way you kind of just caught your breath before you went back in? Or did it just become so normal you just thought, well, I'm still getting to enjoy life. This is just a small part to pay for it.
Yes, I never do rest days. I'm not a fan of it. I recover doing my sports. So I run a marathon every day, and in the evening there's some time to enjoy. If I'm in a nice city, then I might take a stroll around and eat some good food and explore it. And I simply the plan shouldn't be too strict, because I know the best plan never works in practice. So I simply adapt kind of every day, and I stay open for the things that may happen. If there comes a nice invitation somewhere, then I accept it, and I have a great evening. So it's a lot of also a mindset to embrace life, to embrace all the options you get, and take them.
So something that a lot of people would struggle would be you were like sleeping outside, you didn't have a tent, so you were just in your sleeping bag. You were probably in some really uncomfortable positions, maybe on like dirt and banks and stuff like that. What did you find about that? Does any tips for like learning to sleep and go to the toilet outside? Because a lot of people couldn't cope with that. We're become too soft in a way. How do you become used to the uncomfortable situations? How do you find comfort in the uncomfortable situations?
Well, by accepting it and doing it very often, basically. And what I'm doing now is actually how I sleep, where I shower and everything. When sometimes, well, there's no hotel around, and I jump in the lake to take my shower, and I camp somewhere next to it. And that's actually the natural way of life, as humans have lived for the thousands of years. And what we are doing now, living in a house with a shower, and everything is so comfortable. That's not how it was in a lot of ways. And actually, when you're out in the wild, there are simply more important things than your shower and then your bed. You can find comfort in a lot of different ways. And for me, it's the sleeping places I remember are not the most comfortable ones. If you sleep in a 5-star hotel, well, that's comfortable, but you will never remember that. But sleeping out on the beach somewhere under the stars, this is something you may remember for life, and just so much better.
Because I was smiling when I listened to an interview you did where you were talking about like how the sunset would be something that you would stay for you in the rest of your life. It's the way you interacted with people, that you remember. It's not like the record. It's not the, I can get the kudos of saying this, that I've done this. You were just enjoying getting to experience life around the world and meet these amazing people. Was there something that it changed you in a way? Did it change a belief that you held about society, or the people saying, "Oh no, you can't go into like Mexico, for example, where you were met with two gunmen who actually escorted you through because they wanted to keep you safe." Did it change your views on any countries or what we kind of hold to be true? Like this area was dangerous, this people are bad, this did it change any sort of core beliefs that you held about the world?
Yes. So my core belief is I know how the media works, and they are always looking um, for news and looking for the extreme news, of course. And that is true. I want to say that that's not true. The cartels in Mexico, for example, they do have a lot of power and they are very, very bad. But that doesn't mean they have an interest in you. And usually the situation in the countries is portrayed as more extreme as it is. And I have been in a lot of countries where if you would follow the news and would talk to people, everyone would tell you, don't go there, you are going to die. And the reality is it wasn't dangerous at all, um, especially if you have local contacts. So in the end, what I learned is I like to go on my own to the countries and form my own opinion. There is some truth in what you know, of course, but it's only half the truth, and it's the normal people in the countryside that may be very different.
So this question might be a bit difficult because you've been to all these amazing places, met these amazing people. If you had to balance it out, was there a best moment and a worst moment? Was it like the heat? Was it the snow for like the worst part of it? Or was there a moment that you think that's what you'll remember? Or was there just so much that it was difficult, you just tried to absorb it as much?
Yes, there is actually the worst moment on my trip. That was during the swimming leg. I usually swam along the coast, but sometimes I had to do a crossing, like 5, 6, 7, 8 kilometers open sea without a boat to an island, to a peninsula. And during my very first crossing, I thought I like 7K to an island. I thought I can do that before the darkness, but there was a current I didn't know about, and I ended up in the dark, like a few kilometers off the shore on my own. And that was, it's just, I had a feeling I shouldn't be there. It was the most uncomfortable life I had in a very, very long time. And the best moments of my life, well, that's of course of this trip. That's of course Mexico. There are so many crazy things happening. Which are my personal highlight. There was a dog living in the streets, La Coqueta, that was in the Sierra Madre. For some reason, she liked to run, and she followed me for 130 kilometers. And of course, I couldn't adopt her, so I looked for someone who takes her. And as this is Mexico, she got adopted. Got a big hero's welcome in the city, and the mayor gave her a medal, and she became a honorary member, or like a honorary dog of the city. And then national TV came and made a big documentary about her, and she became Mexico's most famous dog. And from that day on, actually, I was known as the German Forrest Gump in Mexico, and people joined, and it became a crazy party the rest of the run. And this is so absurd that something like that can happen. That this is the funniest and best memories I have from my trip.
Because it is something that when I seen the picture initially of you, with the big beard, and you're kind of like running covered with ice in Siberia and all these sort of places, you do kind of remember that like Forrest Gump scene. Why do you think these kind of challenges draw such an interest? Is it the connection to our primal energy and the way society loves somebody that steps outside of a thing, or does it kind of inspire and create a passion and like start that fire in other people, do you think?
I think this is more inspiring people than the poor physical performance, because physical performance, if you go with a support team super fast across the country, then the athletes, they will of course think, oh, this is fast, but the general population, it's simply way out of their imagination. It's too far away. And running 120 marathons across the country or going around the world with your own luggage, carrying everything on your own and being accessible for people, that's what inspires them. And in the end, they don't want to do 120 Ironmans, but I inspired a lot of people in Mexico to run a marathon, or to run their personal best, or something else, to do their first big journey, to have the courage to follow their own dream.
Because I think that's one of the best things about it, is that you show people that it is possible. You don't need to hide in the shadows. You can go away and go for your own dreams. That you inspire others, that show them what is possible. They might not want to do that, but there is some amazing things to do. And does normal life become boring to you now? Are you always looking for the next challenge, or do you think you're always going to be just following how life, the attractions of life? Do you think?
Well, I will always go on big adventures. At the moment, I'm very busy, of course, with speeches, and there's a film coming into cinemas. I wrote a bestseller book, so at the moment I'm doing less adventures than the past for the next few months, and that's totally fine. But I always have my next project on mind. I need something to look forward to. And in the next year, I'm starting another trip around the world, but in a different kind of discipline that hasn't been done before, and that is super exciting. And for me, it will always be like this, that I do my big adventures, and then I take a few months of break from it, and then I go again. And I couldn't imagine being in a situation where I'm at home in my comfort zone, and I don't have anything to look forward to.
I just loved your mindset. It's like, I can't believe we've been talking for an hour. It feels like 10 minutes. You're just such an inspiring person, and I can see how people just flock to you and kind of get so motivated by it. I'd love to do another one and really chat to you and focus on other areas as well. But for people who are listening, what do you want them to take as a sort of go-home message? What would you want them to sort of take from this chat? And
well, my main message, and that's what I really want everyone to take away, is that you have to take the first step. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to have the courage to follow your dreams. Imagine I wasn't a swimmer, and I swam 460 kilometers. I wasn't a runner, and I ran 120 marathons, because in the end I just wanted it badly enough, and I believed I can do it. And you sometimes have to take risk in life, but if you don't do it, if you just stay inside your comfort zone, you take the easy way, well, life just passes. And the hardest thing is to get to the starting line, but the best message is just do it.
I love it. I love that we'll have the links to the book, etc. And I know that there's going to be the English copy coming out soon. There's the film. There's all these amazing things you've got coming up. So how do we connect with you? How do we, you've got a great website. You've got some amazing Instagram shots and videos and stuff. How do we find you? How do we connect with you on social media and find out about your projects and follow like the latest adventures?
The best is, of course, Instagram, or also Facebook and YouTube, and my website. And you can on my website also find the book when it's coming out in English, and the film is also going into cinemas in outside of Germany. It's UK and probably also in the US. And I will be the next few months speaking tour and so on, and then train for my next expedition, and you can follow it online.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.